Hey, IT Nation, Sean Lardo here with another segment installment, program-specific, family-friendly show with my co-host, Matthew Topper. We're here again to talk about Wise Up podcast. How are you today, Matt?
I'm doing well. We have today homemade non-Dunkin' coffee, so we'll see if that has an impact on the show. I see you're doing the same, and I like that mug.
Yes, it's Betty White, and everybody knows she's the original baddie. You know, quick true story. I went to the movies a couple years back, and right before we got to the movies, they had announced that she had passed, right? So she was by the hit like 100 or something, or whatever she was going to hit. And we get to the movie theater, and the advertisement before the movie was join Betty White for her 100th birthday or whatever it was. I was like, oh
Ooh.
Yep, that's not happening. So yeah.
That is oh man. It shouldn't be funny, but the irony is kind of
the irony
amusing.
is, yeah. Well, I mean, she had a good life. She lived forever. Everybody loved her. My goodness.
You can't be that upset, right? Like 100. It doesn't make it less sad, but you got a full life at that point.
Yeah, and everybody still loved her. Like she was like an icon and like a friendly one, and got better as she got older, I think, you know?
Yeah.
So, anyway, so for those watching the podcast for the first time, why don't you
anyone still watching after that?
Yeah, right. If they're still watching, why don't you tell me what they're watching for? What do we do here?
Yeah, so the big thing with Wise Up is it's an opportunity to talk to people and meet people you wouldn't necessarily get to see at all the big shows. They're not the names on stage all the time. Some of the time they are. But they have so much to contribute, and they don't always get to see it on breakout sessions and keynotes and things. Even if they are, you probably didn't get a chance to meet them. So Wise Up is a way to just bring some of the utility and knowledge that all of these guests have to a wider audience and get a deeper conversation than you might get at just a one-way conversation at a show.
Absolutely. And I think the best part about it all is there's so many role players and so many behind the scenes people that never get a chance to speak to a vast majority of people. So it gives you a chance to actually get into this. Now, I don't want to say that about this gentleman because he has no problem talking to everybody. He definitely has the gift of gab. And we should probably bring him on since he is the guest and he has more pertinent information than we do. I feel like, Matt, at this point.
I mean, based on the way this is going so far, definitely.
Exactly. So without further ado, let's bring Kip Fanta on from GetInSync.
Hey.
What's up, man?
Gift of gab. That's really appropriate there. I like that. And true. It's 100% true. So
I know. That's why I want to make sure I got it just right.
Yeah, it's perfect. Best introduction ever.
So for people that don't know you, Kip, why don't you give us a little background on you and what you do?
Yeah. So my whole professional world started in the Procter & Gamble space, IT. And so a lot of who I am in context comes from 25 beautiful years there. And I'll probably reference some of that stuff as we get into some topics perhaps. And then started to do my own thing, particularly related to kind of business and IT working better together, because that's one of the things I really learned a lot about during my IT years at Procter & Gamble. So business relationship management is an industry field about how do you build strategic partnerships between IT, and different functions of business. And ultimately started to work with a company my old CIO started called Initia, which was helping IT organizations and global business services organizations. But why am I really here with you guys is ran into Mr. Stuart Holtby years ago up in, he's from Canada there, the principal founder of GetInSync. And I was meeting with companies that were struggling to kind of be more strategic and more relevant in how they were, particularly IT organizations, on how they showed up with the business. And Stuart, by that time, he had an MSP for years himself, and he had developed GetInSync around, this is what I think I need to be a strong MSP to start to show up even more strategic. So I ran into him, loved what he was talking about, showing me, and I've been working with him for years now, particularly in the last couple of years, particularly on this GetInSync platform to really enable kind of MSPs, organizations that are trying to make sure they're showing up as a strategic partner with these companies and not just a commodity service provider. And so I bring the kind of the enterprise perspective. Stuart brings this MSP perspective, and we're having fun with the team. And that's a little bit of that context of who I am and why I'm here.
Nice. So out of just quick curiosity though,
Yeah.
What is your exact role today in the company?
Yeah, so I'm really focused on partners and our direct customers. And so really trying to build the partner program and building our partners. We like to work through partners, but we also are creating demand direct from customers and clients. And so we're in that validation stage still of learning through the MSPs, learning through fractional CIOs, learning through direct customers that are finding out about GetInSync. And so that's really where I focus, is closely on the partnership work and the customer work, listening to them, validating the platform with them, and spending time that way. That's what I do. Stuart continues to be the leader really from that product and the platform and the genius behind so much what I loved years ago. And that's how we think about that.
So, Kip, you accidentally stumbled upon one of my favorite topics in like the entire space.
Oh boy, let's go.
Right. So many MSPs were started by someone who's a tech and engineer and said, hey, I can go do this technical thing. Right. And in many cases, it's difficult for these people to have business conversations, right? They know they need to do it, but they don't have a business background in all cases, right? So how do you, like, I'm just going to tee this up. You take it any direction you want. We'll just build off of it. How do you start having that kind of conversation as a strategic person when most of the times the strategy you're getting right off the bat is things like you should upgrade this server, right? How do you start translating that to business outcomes?
Yeah, I think it starts right there. I mean, I've met with a lot of IT shops, and I've said to the IT organization, this is not an IT agency. This is not and there were people back in my Procter & Gamble days that in IT that probably didn't know that we sold Tide or Pamper. I'm like, okay, this is a problem. We are not here unless we're actually building the business. And so it ultimately does need to start with business outcomes, as you said, strategy of the organization. And to your point, Matt, a lot of IT shiny object companies and organizations, it's almost like they're trying to like do their own thing, and they do a little like, okay, so how's that map to what they're doing? Okay, we gotta, no. You gotta start with what they're up to, and really then be about a converged strategy, converged results. And so, Matt, you're right on. The biggest learning I had at Procter & Gamble, which is why I still carry this into GetInSync and everything I'm doing, is it's ultimately about the organization's purpose and business. The IT and the other stuff you're doing, it's not going to be there unless that actually is going the way it's supposed to be going. And there's a lot of folks that just forget that, and then they wonder why they're struggling, because you actually are talking all the IT speak, as you were saying, Matt, and it's just not resonating at all. So it's a very disciplined, intentional approach, which is what you started to open up here. Yes.
Is it two parts though to this? Because I find that like whether it's vendor or MSP, to both your point, they're engineer-minded technology people. A lot of times they struggle with going from only a technology product company to an actual business that's a growth business too.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that where they fall short internally, they fall short externally as well, because they speak the same speak.
Yeah, I love that. Sean. One of the things, so Initia, my old CIO and some others started an organization. We train, they train on this, and it's run IT like a business, to your point, Sean. Because when I was at Procter & Gamble, working for Filippo, who was our CIO, we basically looked at how they ran Pantene and Crest and like, wow, I wonder if we could reapply how they run this brand. And so what we started to do, to Sean, your point, we're going to run IT like a business. And just that mindset alone changes the game. I mean, it's mind-blowing what that allowed us to start to think about. This is my service. This is my company. So whether it's an MSP owner, whether it's anyone that has a product, You got to think of it as a business and all the multifunctional support you need. And back to Matt's point, if you think like a business, that's going to flag to a founder right away. Oh, I don't have the right finance and design support and marketing. So that's what businesses need. What do businesses need? And it's not sometimes how it starts. And so run your IT, run your MSP, run your like a business. And then we learned a lot, like how does Crest and Pampers run? And we reapplied a brand building framework. We reapplied how they do their research. So I love that, Sean. And that was, to me, a big difference maker on really what signifies a distinct difference between some organizations. They actually run it that way versus, as you're saying, Matt, they continue to be you both are a technical product. You're not going to be able to sustain that unless you think end to end like a business owner.
So put yourself in the the mindset of someone who started maybe an MSP or started their own consulting company or something like that.
Yeah.
What's a concrete step they could do to start going down that road? Like, do they try to get themselves invited to a company's internal meetings? Is there something that they should be doing to try and learn the business side to begin with? Like, how do you start moving from that engineer mindset to that true consultative mindset?
Yeah, it's awesome. This is a great discussion. And if I think about somebody, from an MSP or some firm that's working in the IT space, first of all, do they have anyone over there that is, an IT leader, right? So a co-managed kind of situation, right? I'm going to start to talk to that person. If that person is also struggling to be strategic, and to your point, Matt, doesn't know the business at all, then what a great opportunity for you on the outside to start to say, hey, we need to step up our game here. And I've never met any business person, to your point, Matt, that would turn down someone saying, you know what, you might see us being a little bit reactive, and I'm telling you, our goal is to be a partner. And to be a partner, that really means I want to be more intentional in understanding what you're doing. And so do you mind if I actually kind of, to your point, Matt, if I would come and understand a little bit more of what you're doing over here? Can I understand your strategy? Can you tell me a little bit more? Most people like to talk about themselves, about the business. And if they have an IT leader, external, internal, that's kind of coming and they're inquiring, asking I've never sent, you know what? No, you don't need to know that stuff. And I always downplay myself. Like I said, you might notice that we're very reactive, that we're struggling. Part of that is that we're not in touch enough with your business. And my fault. I should be closer. Help me help you. Help me help you. And let us know. And so I think very transparent conversations, Matt, which is we're not as close as we need to be. And I think you'll see a difference if we start to understand your business more. And many times an MSP or someone who's working with this IT leader, you could help that IT leader show up better. You might actually coach the IT leader to show up better, because right now they're an order taker. They're not a partner. So I'm with you, man. I think it is trying to get into the CFO, the CEO, and trying to show up like we want to do a better job. We know we're not there yet. And part of that is I want to get closer to your business. Do you mind if I shadow some of your folks in the organization? Do you mind if anything you want me to read? Because I want to be locked in on your strategy, not some IT stuff. So it's a mindset first, Matt, but then I like some of your points on some actions you could take.
So would you consider this consultative then, your approach?
Yeah, it's great where you're heading, Sean. And that's really where GetInSync, and I think a lot of folks are talking in the VCIO space. Yeah, you can say VCIO, but come on. It's still not strategic. And yeah, we've got to start enabling the human beings, not the chat and the chat bots and everything else, which will take over the commodity stuff before you know it. I want to enable folks with the right platforms, with the right tools to get into some of those more advisory conversations, Sean. And they're so desperately needed. They're so desperately needed. I'll tell you one story. When I was at Procter & Gamble, so I'm working with vendors, MSPs, right? And And at one point I was involved in kind of all the unified communication stuff. So anything with video, audio, conferencing, blah. And I had an idea what I wanted to do. And so I had 3 big vendors back then, right? I had HP, Microsoft, Cisco. They're all kind of touching this space. And I always tell this story to hit this point. I'd go to like HP. Here's what I'm thinking. And HP, and I use their names purposely here. HP's like, oh, that sounds great. Let's do that. I'm like, wow, I must be onto something. We'll have a statement of work for you tomorrow, Kip. I'm like, okay. I go to Microsoft because they all could kind of play. Microsoft's like, you know, this is interesting, Kip. We've got a team back at headquarters. We'd love to work with you. Let's go. I'm thinking, I might be on a good idea, innovation. I go to Cisco and I give them the credit. Cisco looks at me and says, you know what? I'm not sure I would do that. Now, we could, but I'm not sure you're aware of some other things we're doing. I think you're asking for something here. I think there could be some. And I remember in my brain at that point going, I'm talking to a partner, not a vendor. Mm-hmm. And we needed to start seeing partners that didn't just go, yes, yes, I will. I'll take your money. Here's a statement of work. I want to have MSPs firms show up and engage, push back. Don't take orders. And to Matt, your point, and Sean, your point, it's going to require some new platforms, new tools, new skills, new mindsets. But that's a big opportunity right now with all the tools that are coming.
Mm-hmm.
So we've talked about getting involved in the business and being consultative. There are some aspects, though, where your expertise as a technical SME comes in, right? Sometimes you really do just have to say, it's time to replace this server or upgrade this thing. When that happens, how do you frame that so it sounds more like the business benefit as opposed to, hey, this thing's gonna like expire soon, like I just want to replace it, right? What does that conversation look like ideally?
Yeah, and those are tricky, right? It's a beautiful. You guys are smart, man. I mean, you guys got penetrating questions. This is good, but that's a good one, Matt. Because it's easy for us to work on something from a technology standpoint when it's going to help their sales or help them do this, right? But there are things, to Matt, your point, this has to be done. But I still am going to try to always articulate the business value, managing the risk. Because, again, they used to think Kip was the mean guy just doing IT. Like, what could I do to mess them up? I'm an IT. I just want to do stuff just to make their lives. Like, they're thinking we're doing stuff for no purpose, to your point, Matt. We're doing that maintenance and that upgrade. We have to explain the why. We don't explain the why effectively at all, or to effect, we don't do it well sometimes. So I would want to make sure they understood. And sometimes I would do this, man. I would say, now listen, we don't have to do that. Now, if we didn't do that, then the following is going to maybe be at risk. And if that went down, it would take four days versus 24 hours. Oh, wait a second. No, Kip, please do that. We need to. So I would have a little bit of education. We have to educate our business about all this technology stuff. It's a black box. It's like, just go do it. Oh, just go do it. I wish it was that easy. So we have to educate them on some of this and try to help them, Matt, with some of that why. But I'm agreeing, it's not as simple as I'm just saying, because sometimes it is, I got to do this upgrade. But I could tie that to, why are we doing the upgrade? We're not doing it for just fun. Ultimately, IT is not, is getting direction from the company to do certain things to help the bit. So let's connect some of those dots in the why. So I love the question, though. We should work on that.
I think that to just go into that question and the context around it, context matters at this point. Something you said before, if you come in consultative about everything else and you are the partner, that conversation is a different conversation. You can't jump into a conversation like that without establishing some sort of value and trust in a relationship, right? Yeah. When you talk about strategy, there is no strategic plan to sales. It's an earned thing, I feel like, in this case.
Yeah. So I go back to working with MSP vendor and these are relationships that have to be formed and built. And as I started to look at my little vendor kind of group there, I realized there were some that were not the right players. So I had an account rep. Hey, here I am. nice to see you, Kip. It's my quarterly call. I'm like, and remind me who you are again. They'd show up every quarter. They'd show up every month. Like, I don't even know who you are. And I basically say, I don't want the account rep anymore. I need someone who's going to start to drive a partnership. And I'll even pay more for you to be here weekly in a meeting with. Like, I have to build a relationship, to your point, Sean, on trust. And then I'll open up more. You want strategy? You're a co-partner. You want to be a partner ecosystem versus a bunch of internal enterprise, and then I'm a commodity service provider over here. I've got to start building this ecosystem of partnership. And I loved it when I saw that from some of my vendor suppliers who realized I've got to start acting differently, and I got to start managing this like a partnership. And it required me to change my behaviors too. But I love the comment. You got to build some trust. And you're not going to build that every quarter by showing up. You're not going to build that even every month. You're going to have to take some time to nurture that.
Mm-hmm.
The operations are key, but this is, I think, new muscles for people. It is new muscles for people. But if I'm an MSP or if I'm some of these vendors, we're basically saying you got to start building these new muscles, because the other muscles are going to be atrophy. I mean, people are going to handle those without you anymore. So, if you don't build these new muscles, you're going to lose.
But let's go back to that though. Building new muscles, like you said, showing up once a quarter. So what's for those people that are trying to establish this? Is there a certain frequency? Is there a certain process, a simple one that they should be following? How do they do this? Aside from being the one that responds to every time there's a ticket.
Yeah,
that's not the same thing.
That's not what we're talking, right?
So what is it that they should be trying to do?
Well, I'd love to have, one of the concepts we had were like these joint business plan reviews. It's more than like a QBR kind of thing, but I want, that's one of the, that Q of the Q, that's not frequent enough, right? I need to ideally be in some kind of touch base every week from a strategic conversation. It could be pretty quick in terms of how's it going? Where are we? Anything. So that's the leader of this client. Who's leading this client relationship? Someone's got to be on point to nurture this client. And you got to find who's on the client side that is a strategic leader. That's a relationship that if you build trust, whether it's this MSP leader, with this lead, you got to nurture that. And I would be every week, whether it's face-to-face, in person, something, and then every month maybe doing a bigger kind of meeting. You got to be very deliberate. And that's why for the ones that worked well, they don't get spread across 50 clients. You're going to be this thin across 50 clients. I'm always coaching people. I'd rather you be this deep with 4. I'd rather you build trust, because if you build trust and you become a partner with those 4, you won't need the 50 that you have this thin little layer on, where you're at risk of becoming completely commodity, because you are nowhere near trusted. So I'm always coaching, don't worry about those 4, worry about these 3 and go deep. But that's a deliberate strategy decision on an MSP or anyone who's kind of working these client relationships. Yeah. So, but this is not like when I get time to do it after I work all the tickets. This is a very strategic conversation and asking good questions, as you were saying, Matt, like, tell me more. What am I missing? How can I be helping you more? It's a different conversation than just looking at the tickets of the last week and what we're spending money on,
Yep.
Yeah, agreed. Well, Kip, we're just about out of time, and we always end the show with one same question, and that is, if you could give our audience one piece of advice in the form of a habit, something they should start doing, or maybe something they should stop doing, what would that be? Like, so in this case, someone's starting to try and have those more strategic conversations or get more involved in the in the business of their clients. What's your advice to them?
Yeah, we've been dabbling around a few things. A real area I love to talk is having a purposeful narrative. Business Relationship Management Institute talks about this a lot. And what does this mean? It's being deliberate on your stories and your language to create a pull, not a push. And so as a part of that, Matt, I'm going to say one of the things I am always coaching, helping people on is leading with questions. It's one of my favorite books back there. So what I would say, Matt, is if I've got an important meeting coming up next week, it's actually a scheduled meeting. I'm not just showing up with a little talk sheet and blah, blah, blah. No, I'm coming in prepared with some really good and effective questions. And I'm also going to start to get a little bit more experience in these meetings by coming back with questions. You talked about earlier. You want to engage. You want to pull out from them. And by having that inquiry, that curiosity, you'll build partnership just by showing curiosity and inquiry and asking effective questions. Not like, hey, any problems with the server thing? No, that you care about, but you're going to draw out from them. So lead with questions. Be ready to ask effective questions. And then when they come back with something, ask a follow-up question. Do some of the 5 why. Do some why questions. That to me is a great habit. The best leaders do that. Even when I know the answers, Matt, I'm going to ask the question because they don't know their answer yet. I'm going to take them where I want to take them with good questions. They haven't thought about this. I actually know the answer is no or yes, or here's a draw this out. So that might be something that everyone should build, is just be an effective inquiry questions. Use that.
It sounds like really it's about preparation.
For sure. Don't just go willy-nilly into anything. And again, Sean, to your point, there were some vendor suppliers, they were willy-nilly. And I remember thinking as I'm meeting with them, why are we meeting? This is no value to me at all. And I'm not talking the formal, I'm like talking weekly, leverage this. And I'm always going to make sure that client sees that I'm interested in the business, I'm interested in what they're interested in. And secondarily, I'll talk my stuff, but it's really draw that out from them.
I like that. I think it's important. I think people should take note of that. I think we all know there's a certain small percentage of the standard questions, but we're talking the next level and
we're
talking understanding. I think people in sales, customer service, ongoing client success, all should take note of that, because you should come in with an agenda that makes sense for both parties.
Yeah, and the why questions, the what and the how questions, not the closed-ended. I'll sprinkle in the yes, no ones with the bigger question, and then be ready to just dial. I think 70%, and so you'll really get some good engagement support from that. They'll appreciate that interest that you have.
Well, Kip, we could talk about this all day, obviously, and this is a really good topic. Like I said, it's one of my favorite topics. Perspective, but it's applicable to everyone in the organization, not just technical people. So thank you for coming on, Sean. Any last words? Any last thoughts?
No, I think we covered them pretty well. I just to reiterate that, be prepared. Have an understanding of what you're trying to accomplish. Go into every call or every meeting with an intent of solving whatever the problem is and whatever the next steps going to be to make progress. I think that's everything I was able to really gather from that too. So
appreciate it, guys.
Absolutely, and good luck again this year on Pitch It.